Dean Martin was the undisputed king of cool, a man who conquered Vegas and Hollywood without ever losing his effortless swagger. But while he made life look like one long cocktail hour, his personal world was a crowded, music-complex maze. Dino fathered 8 children across 3 different marriages, creating a huge dynasty music behind the scenes of his tuxedo-clad fame. But even for a man known for his charm, rumors have long swirled that one relationship was beyond music repair. So which child did he utterly hate and why? Join us as we music. Pull back the velvet curtain on the Martin family's most private and painful feuds, broken knuckles and croupier. Luck, the making of Dean Martin. Before he was a king of cool, he was just a kid from the rough and tumble music streets of Steubenville, Ohio, known as Dino Paul Crocetti. Born in 1917 to an Italian barber and an Italian-American mother, Dino's music life didn't start with velvet seats and martinis. It started with grit, sweat, and a pair of bruised fists. He grew up speaking Italian at home, but on the streets, he spoke the language of the hustle. By the age of 15, he stepped into the ring under the name Kid Crochet, a nickname that suited his music, scrappy spirit better than his physical results. His boxing career left him with a collection of permanent souvenirs. A broken nose, music, a scarred lip, and knuckles shattered from the lack of protective tape he simply couldn't afford. Dino famously joked that out of 12 bouts, music, he won all but 11. When the ring wasn't paying the bills, he and his roommate Sonny King Music would charge people just to watch them brawl in their New York apartment until someone hit the floor. It was a desperate bare-knuckle existence. But even then, Dino had a spark that couldn't be extinguished. Music. Realizing that taking punches wasn't a sustainable path to stardom, he traded the boxing gloves for the sleek tools of an illegal casino. Working as a roulette stickman in Kier behind a tobacco shop. Music. Dino learned the art of gamble and the smooth talk of the underworld. But while his hands were busy music, moving chips, his voice was finding its rhythm with local bands. Initially billing himself as Dino Martini, he eventually found his way to band leader Sammy Music Watkins, who gave him a name that would define an era, Dean Martin. As his career began to simmer in the clubs of Cleveland and New York, his personal life was heating up just as music fast. In 1941, he married Elizabeth Betty and McDonald, and for a moment, it looked like the rising star was settling into a domestic groove in Cleveland music heights. They brought 4 children into a world that was rapidly changing. But the pressure of fame and the scars of his hard, scrabble youth proved too much for the union to hold. By 1949, the marriage dissolved, leaving the newly minted Dean Music Martin standing on the edge of a Hollywood explosion that would change everything. Music beyond the second fiddle, Howino found his solo groove. The transition from the boxing ring to the spotlight was anything but a smooth ride. But fate finally intervened in the lobby of the Belmont Plaza Hotel. It was 1944 when Dean Martin crossed paths with a skinny high-energy comic named Jerry Music Lewis. Dean, ever the smooth operator, reportedly leaned in and told the kid, "Hey, I saw your act. You're a funny kid." Little did they know that this casual observation was a spark, music, that would ignite one of the most explosive partnerships in entertainment history. They were just 2 hungry performers on the same bill. Music. But the chemistry was undeniable, and it wasn't long before they decided to pull their talents into a formal music comedy team. Their legendary rise, however, music, almost ended before it even began. Their debut at Atlantic City's 500 Club was a total disaster, leaving the owner, Skinny D'Amato, unimpressed music, and ready to hand them their walking papers. Facing the axe, the duo huddled in an alleyway and music made a pact to go for broke. What followed was pure, unadulterated chaos. While Dean tried to croon his way through a ballad, Jerry Music stormed the stage, dressed as a bumbling busboy, shattering plates and wrecking the club's decorum. The crowd didn't just laugh, they roared. This frantic ad-libbed energy became their signature, turning them into the hottest ticket on the eastern seaboard and eventually landing them on the very first broadcast music of The Ed Sullivan Show. By 1949, Martin and Lewis were more than just a nightclub act. They were a global phenomenon. They signed a massive deal with Paramount, conquered the radio waves, and began raking in millions through their own production company. At the peak of their powers, Music. Jerry even stood as the best man at Dean's second wedding. But behind the scenes, the music, effortless swagger was starting to feel like a heavy burden. Dean grew tired of the repetitive slapstick music routines and the feeling that he was playing second fiddle to Jerry's manic persona. The music. Tension reached a boiling point during the filming of Three Rings Circus when Dean saw a magazine cover where he had been literally cropped out a photo. It was the ultimate insult, and the man who made life look easy finally had music. Enough. The breakup in 1956 felt like a death in the family for Hollywood, and the critics were quick to sharpen their knives. Dean's first solo film flopped, Music. And with the rise of rock and roll, many thought the era of the pop cuna was dead and buried. But Dean Martin wasn't a man to be counted out. He took a massive pay cut to prove he could be a serious dramatic actor, landing a role in The Young Lions alongside Marlon Brando. It was a gamble that paid off beautifully, reinventing him as a triple threat who could dominate nightclubs, music records, and the silver screen. This comeback paved the way for his iconic partnership with Frank Sinatra Music in Some Came Running, cementing his status as a permanent fixture in the Hollywood elite. By the middle of the 1960s, Dean wasn't just back, music was untouchable. He found his groove as the ultimate Vegas entertainer, the man in music, the tuxedo who made every show feel like a private party. Whether he was playing the gritty dude in the movie Rio Bravo or pulling off heist music in Ocean's 11, Dean had a level of cool that never went out of style. This music legendary status was tied to a group of friends that would change Hollywood history forever, the Rat Pack. The story of the Rat Pack actually started years before the Vegas lights. Dean, music, first met Frank Sinatra in the early 1940s when he was just starting his singing career. Around that same time, Sinatra met a young Sammy Davis Jr., who, music, was only 15 and working as a dancer. But the very first version of the group didn't include Dean or Sammy as regulars. Music, started at the home of actors Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. They loved to have friends over to drink and talk. And one music night, Bacall looked at the tired, messy group and said, "You look like a pack of rats." The name stuck, and it even made stationery that said, "Never rat on music, a rat." When Bogart passed away in 1957, that original group ended, but a new one was born, Music. After Dean and Frank starred together in the 1958 film Some Came Running, the new Rat Pack took over Las Vegas. This group made up of Frank, Dean, and Sammy turned Music Vegas from a small desert town into the most sophisticated place in the world. Unlike the first group that just hung out at home, this new version was all about the show. If you went to see Dean perform, there was a huge chance Frank Music or Sammy would jump on stage to join him. It was a wild, fun collaboration that everyone Music wanted to see. Frank Sinatra actually hated the name Rat Pack or the Clan. He used to say there was no such thing as a music pack. They were just a bunch of millionaires having a little fun. But to the world, they were icons of cool. Songs like Music, Ain't That a Kick in the Head didn't even top the charts back then, but they eventually became the sound of Dean's lasting legacy. Music. He turned Las Vegas into his own playground for 30 years, often sharing the stage with his daughter Gail. He proved that even though his life was complicated, he was the only king of cool. Yet, beneath that smooth look and the constant sound of ice cubes in a glass, Music, Dean Martin, was a man looking for something he couldn't quite find. His own fame, Music, made it hard for him to ever truly settle down. Behind the velvet curtains and the bright lights of the Vegas Strip, the coolest man in the world was walking a lonely path. He spent his music, private life dealing with broken families, and a heart that was always restless. Music, searching for a piece that the spotlight could never give him.